Why would a mother post a sign offering her own children for sale? This chilling photograph, taken during the Great Depression, reveals the heartbreaking choices some families were forced to make. Stricken by poverty and unable to provide even the basics, parents faced unimaginable decisions. For this mother, the sign wasn't just words. It was a desperate plea for survival in one of America's darkest chapters. This glimpse into America's past is just the start. Prepare to uncover rare moments that shaped a nation and reveal stories you won't forget. After seeing this, you're going to wish animal rights were implemented sooner. You're looking at an entire ecosystem, reduced to trophies. Rows of mounted bison heads stare blankly from a Kansas shop, marking the near extinction of a species that once thundered across the plains. By 1900, bison were slaughtered en masse, some for sport, some to disrupt indigenous ways of life. The Great Plains, once alive with stampedes, were left eerily silent. For some, these heads were not mere decorations. They were grim symbols of humanity's relentless conquest. But it gets even more wild in this next picture. They were not exactly in the mood for a selfie. They just wanted to survive. Here, a Texas pioneer family stares down the camera, their steely expressions as tough as the plains behind them. It's 1918, and their lives revolve around endless toil and resilience. Sure, this was not a yearly family photo shoot, but it gives us a glimpse into what pioneer families had to go through in search for a better life. But wait, there is more. Can you imagine living in a place like this? You are looking at a sheep-eater family, a band of the Shoshone, camped in Idaho's rugged Rocky Mountains. Known as master survivalists, they thrived on bighorn sheep and other mountain resources. By 1871, westward expansion was uprooting indigenous communities, but the sheep-eaters held onto their traditions, adapting to the wilderness with incredible ingenuity. If this was their home, how did they survive during rainy seasons? Pictures from the Wild West really leave us racking our brains, don't they? This next photo shows a brighter side of old America. This picture reveals a simpler, yet harder time. If you have ever wondered what a school day looked like in 1907, you're about to find out. You're looking at the front of a one-room schoolhouse in Round Top, Texas. A group of children gathers for a class, embodying the simplicity of rural education. But beneath the simplicity was the reality of the time, a hard, labor-intensive existence outside of school hours. Makes you wonder, how did these kids survive a school day in such conditions, with little to no resources? While these kids were in school, some others were being forced to work. In 1913, child labor was normalized, and this is proof of it. These are young working women in a Mississippi cotton mill, enduring grueling hours and hazardous conditions for a pittance. The air is thick with dust, and the relentless clatter of machines drowns out any chatter. Their young, worn faces reveal the toll of an industrial era that thrived on cheap labor. Child labor was common, safety rules non-existent, and every thread of cotton carried a story of endurance. But through it all, these children tried to remain positive, knowing that they didn't have a choice but to keep on working. I bet you didn't see this next picture coming. One wrong move, and they'll all fall to their deaths. In 1906, loggers crossed a dangerously rickety bridge in Oregon's Cascade Mountains while sitting right on the edge of the train's cargo. But this is where it gets scary. The deep gorge below is literally waiting to swallow them up. These people lived on the edge, literally. Would you trust a bridge like that? In a world without safety regulations, this photo makes you question everything we take for granted today. It was risk over safety, all for the job. But it gets even more interesting in this next picture. What's the craziest thing you've ever done for money? In the late 1800s, the Klondike Gold Rush brought thousands of hopeful prospectors to Alaska, including those in this photo, who rest at Sheep Camp. They were weary but driven, with their dreams of gold keeping them going. Courtney's store and post office, run out of a tent, became a beacon for these travelers. Can you imagine trekking through Alaska's brutal conditions just for the chance to strike it rich? Well, for these kids, trekking was not an option. If you hated taking the bus to school, this picture will make you think again. Before yellow school buses, kids in Lexington, Kentucky, rode in custom school wagons in the 1900s. This photo captures a group of children making their way to school in style, at least for the time. Can you imagine the excitement or dread of bouncing along dirt roads in this wagon every day? They were pioneers in their own way, enduring tough roads to get an education. These wagons were the lifeline to learning in an era where school wasn't always just down the street. This next picture shows a side of New York that the media is hiding from you. Did you know that the iconic New York's Times Square was once as quiet as a graveyard? Longacre Square, a quiet spot filled with horse-drawn carriages, was on the brink of a massive transformation here. In 1904, the New York Times moved its headquarters here, and the area was renamed to Times Square. The hustle and bustle of early 1900s New York was about to get a whole lot louder. The man in the white attire probably didn't know that this place will one day be filled with bright lights and billboards. While New York was progressing, a disaster was brewing in San Francisco. Can you imagine the pain of watching your entire city crumble? This heartbreaking picture captures the aftermath of the 1906 earthquake, showing San Francisco's fiery destruction. Homes and businesses are reduced to ashes as residents watch helplessly. The city's greatest disaster left a deep scar, but also sparked incredible rebuilding efforts. Imagine living through something so life-changing. Where do you even begin to rebuild after such devastation? The resilience of San Francisco's people was born in these flames. In such sad times, women like this gave people a reason to live. Could you brave the winter cold for a good cause? You're probably wondering why she is standing in the cold. Well, this Salvation Army volunteer standing in the snow in New York City is collecting donations to help those in need during Christmas. It's 1900, and the streets are bustling with holiday shoppers, but this selfless soul isn't distracted by the festivities. Instead, she is doing everything they can to make sure no one goes without this holiday season. Do you think this is something you can do? Before you answer that, check out this wild photo. If you had to journey through one of the hottest, driest places on Earth, how would you survive? This powerful photo shows a 20-mule team pulling a borax wagon across Death Valley. These animals and their brave drivers embarked on a grueling 165-mile journey, carrying precious borax through blistering heat to Mojave's railroad terminal. Just imagine the intense conditions and the grit it took to survive out there. Did they ever wonder if they'd make it out alive? But while they were risking their lives, the people of New Orleans were having a blast. If you could go back in time to the 1800s, would you like to visit New Orleans? You are looking at St. Charles Avenue in 1890, the bustling city with horse-drawn carriages gliding past grand buildings and luxurious hotels. The streets are alive with culture, reflecting New Orleans' status as a center of Southern charm. How would you fit into this lively scene? Would you be one of the well-dressed residents or a curious visitor? With its mix of rich history and opulent buildings, this street captured the heart and soul of New Orleans. For this family, having a roof over their heads was a massive accomplishment. What does it take to build a home from nothing but earth? This family, which is identified to be the Sylvester Rawding family, is standing proudly in front of their sod house as a proof of resilience. Under the vast sky with a windmill whirring in the background, these pioneers proved they could turn the harsh plains into a place to call home. For these early settlers, it wasn't just about having a roof over their heads. It was about survival and building something that can last for generations. This is the kind of strength and grit that built America's heartland. Next up, we have the woman that stopped America in its tracks. Ever seen someone with a kind of beauty that seems almost unreal? This beautiful woman was crowned the most beautiful woman in America at just 18. Ruth Malcolmson went from Miss Philadelphia to Miss America in 1924, dazzling everyone in Atlantic City. But there was something different about her. She was a symbol of the American dream. Imagine the nerves, the excitement, and the pressure of living up to expectations. But it gets even more exciting in this next picture. This quiet mining town holds many secrets that will leave you shocked. Silver King, Arizona, was once a buzzing hub of activity, and this shot of mule-drawn freight wagons hauling ore through the streets tells it all. Though Silver King's heyday has long since passed, this image freezes a moment when the town was alive with industry. The wagons rumble through dust-filled streets, carrying precious metals and a town's hopes for prosperity. Makes you wonder, what happened to Silver King? Was it too small to survive the boom and bust nature of the Wild West? Stick around and you may find out. When you want to travel, you book a flight and catch it, right? Well, back in the day, traveling was not that easy. It was dangerous and deadly. These stagecoaches on their way to Deadwood, South Dakota, captured mid-journey, showcase the perilous trips taken in the late 1800s. You can probably see how dusty the road is, but dust was the least of their worries. They were more focused on the danger that lurked around. They were ruthless men on a mission to bring justice to the people, but some believed they had a dark side. These were the Texas Rangers in their prime, icons of rugged justice. Back in 1887, this group of Texas Rangers stand tall outside a local grocery store in Cotulla, Texas, embodying the raw law enforcement spirit of the Old West. With their uniform outfits, stern expressions, and firearms at the ready, they seem to carry the weight of the frontier. But were they the true heroes history remembers? Or were there darker sides to their legacy? That's the part we will never know. This next picture is something you have probably never seen. Ever seen a drawbridge rise in person? This one was a game changer in its time. In 1900, the 12th Street drawbridge in Chicago was a crucial piece of the city's growing infrastructure. This photo shows the moment the bridge rises, allowing ships to pass underneath, opening up trade and commerce. While it may seem like just a bridge, it's a reminder of the innovation that was fueling cities into the modern age. But here's the interesting part. Many Chicagoans never paused to consider the engineering marvel beneath their feet. For these boys, speaking up was not an option. So many strange things were normalized in the Wild West and child labor of them. These boys were forced to become men at an early age. In the 1910s, in Nanticoke, Pennsylvania, children like these young boys worked tirelessly in coal mines, sorting through impurities. Can you believe that some of them were not even teenagers? Known as breaker boys, these children endured long hours in unsafe conditions, helping fuel America's industrial rise. Their faces are weary, their hands calloused, yet they remain largely forgotten in the history books. This next story is tragic. The day began just like every other day, then out of nowhere, disaster struck. On January 6, 1915, New York's Lexington Avenue subway turned deadly when a short circuit sparked a devastating fire. The wooden train cars were quickly engulfed in flames, and thick smoke filled the tunnels, blinding and choking passengers. Panic broke out as hundreds tried to escape some smashed windows to crawl into the tunnels, while others were trampled in the chaos. Firefighters faced immense challenges reaching the victims. The disaster claimed at least 7 lives and injured over 200, prompting safety reforms, including the end of wooden cars. Now, let's expose the dark side of the Wild West. If you love the Wild West era, you have certainly heard of Dodge City. This place was no ordinary city. In 1872, Dodge City, Kansas, was a lively trading hub where buffalo hunters and travelers swapped goods, stories, and possibly a few drinks. This photo shows a time when the town was both a frontier settlement and a bustling marketplace. Truth be told, Dodge City was a wild yet entrepreneurial town. But with all the commerce, what other deals were being struck in the shadows? This boy looked like he knew a secret or two. These days, kids ride their bicycles all day for fun. But for the boy, his bicycle was strictly for business. Here, a young messenger stands proudly by his bicycle, ready to take on Nashville's streets in 1910. With the rise of bicycles, businesses began to tap into pedal-powered delivery services, offering a glimpse into the future of urban logistics. The simple bicycle would soon become an essential tool for getting goods where they needed to be quickly and efficiently. For this little boy, entrepreneurship was already tugging at his heart. This kid's hustle could put modern side gigs to shame. Standing sharp on a busy St. Louis corner, this newsboy embodies the grit of America's urban boom in 1900. In a city buzzing with industry, boys like him worked tirelessly, hawking headlines to make a few pennies. Here is the shocking part of all this. Just like many other young boys, this boy was selling for survival. juggling childhood with adult responsibilities. With a stack of dailies under his arm, he was ready to make some money. But these cowboys had a different agenda. Before Instagram brunches, there was the chuck wagon. Here, cowboys huddle around the open Texas plains, sipping tea and piling up plates of beans and biscuits. But this is where it gets interesting. The chuck wagon, their mobile kitchen, was the lifeline of cattle drives, run by a cook who ruled like a king. This picture gives us a glimpse into the cowboy lifestyle: hard work, wide horizons, and simple comforts. For some people, comfort was a luxury they couldn't afford. They desperately wanted to be free, but freedom came at a costly price. Captured during the Civil War, this picture shows African American refugees called contrabands, seeking freedom at Cumberland Landing. Their weary faces tell stories of lives uprooted, yet their eyes hold on to hope. Having fled slavery, they gathered in Union-controlled areas, clinging to the promise of liberty while facing an uncertain future. Get ready to go back in time with this next photo. Traffic jams existed before cars, and they were even louder. Truth be told, Delaware Avenue in 1908 was pure chaos. Horse-drawn carriages jostled for space with early streetcars, while pedestrians darted across cobblestone streets. Vendors shouted their wares, wheels clattered, and the air buzzed with coal smoke and ambition. Buffalo was alive with energy, balancing old-world charm and industrial progress. Look closely, and you'll feel the pulse of a growing America, where every street corner carries the promise of opportunity and the smell of fresh produce mixed with horse manure. For this family, a new life was calling, and they had to answer. This picture captures the kind of hope that built America. Here, a family stands on the dock at Ellis Island, gazing at the iconic New York City skyline. This picture, as simple as it looks, tells a story of dreams of freedom, prosperity, and a fresh start. This 1925 photo freezes a pivotal moment for countless immigrants who stepped off the boat, leaving behind everything familiar. They had no idea what was waiting for them on the other side. All they knew was that they desperately wanted their lives to change, and they were bold enough to walk away from the familiar in order to make their dreams come true. But these men were pursuing something different. Have you ever seen a tree bigger than your entire house? These lumberjacks pose beside colossal sequoia logs that dwarf them in size and scale. Taken in Humboldt County during California's logging boom, this photo shows humanity's audacious clash with nature. The tools look absurdly small compared to the fallen giants, some thousands of years old. These towering trees fed America's railroads and buildings, but at a devastating cost to the environment. The forest, once untouchable, succumbed to the relentless swing of an axe. Sure, this site looks cool, but someone with megalophobia will most likely not survive this sight. This next picture will break your heart. I bet the first thing that caught your attention is the writing on the building. The man in an all-black outfit is a black Union soldier resting outside a former slave auction house in Atlanta. Above him, a faded sign reading, "Auction and Negro Sales" looms as a stark reminder of America's brutal past. By 1864, Atlanta was a battleground for liberty and transformation, and this soldier's presence is a symbol of resilience amidst a city steeped in conflict. It's safe to say that this picture is a paradox frozen in time. Speaking for freezing, winter was upon this city. Think your winter commute is tough? See this. In 1908, after a brutal New York City snowstorm, workers shoveled heaps of snow into carts by hand with no plows, no salt, just sheer manpower. The streets buzzed with activity despite the cold, as vendors pushed carts and commuters navigated icy sidewalks. Snowdrifts towered over the workers, their exhaustion visible in every gesture. Yet life didn't stop for winter in the city that never sleeps. For these men, survival meant braving the elements with grit, determination, and a good pair of boots. Sure, the men survived, but in this next picture, someone was about to become rich. They struck gold, or at least tried to. With pans in hand, these men huddle over icy streams in the Black Hills, chasing the last glimmers of a gold rush that faded decades earlier. By 1889, most fortunes had already been made or lost, but the promise of striking it rich still lured dreamers to the rugged terrain. This picture shows not just their determination, but the harsh realities of prospecting: freezing water, long days, and rare rewards. These hopeful diggers lived for the thrill of discovery, even as they chipped away at an already fleeting legend of the Wild West. If you were around at the time, would you have joined them, knowing you may not get lucky? While you ponder on that, let's take a trip down memory lane. Before vending machines, there was this game changer on wheels. Check it out. In this picture, deliverymen proudly pose with one of Coca-Cola's first trucks in Knoxville, Tennessee. It's 1909, and the iconic beverage is expanding its reach from soda fountains to neighborhoods nationwide. These men didn't even realize that they were part of a revolution in marketing and logistics, helping shape America's love affair with soda. This moment, small as it seems, was the start of something huge. And who could resist the promise of an ice-cold Coke delivered to your door, or the promise of a better future? Pioneer families were a different breed. They knew something that we don't know. Here is a pioneer family trudging westward in a creaky-covered wagon, their eyes set on untamed Nebraska plains. Part of the Great Migration, this image shows the rugged determination it took to uproot and start over in an unforgiving wilderness. For this family, greener pastures were the goal, and they would stop at nothing till they found fertile ground. This next picture will warm your heart. Before smartphones, this is how families made winter memorable. In the thick of a snowy day, Raymond Schuyler and his kids took this picture in the winter of 1904. They looked like they had been laughing and playing in the frost-covered streets of Worcester. Despite the biting cold, you can tell this man is genuinely enjoying his time with his kids. Sure, what we see here is a contrast to today's central heating and screen time, but it is a reminder that joy often comes from the simplest of moments, even when your fingers are frozen solid. For this president, fun was the last thing on his mind. Ever wondered how presidents cope during a war? Well, here is a picture of a president in the thick of war. Abraham Lincoln stands tall, dwarfed only by the gravity of the Civil War, beside General George B. McClellan and his staff. This photograph, taken shortly after the bloodiest single-day battle in American history, Antietam, captures a leader visibly burdened by the cost of the war, but resolute in his vision. Lincoln's iconic stovepipe hat was set aside for this solemn occasion, making this image even more striking. The tension from this scene is almost palpable, like the one in this next picture. If you hated taking the bus to school, this picture will make you think again. Before yellow school buses, kids in Lexington, Kentucky rode in custom school wagons in the 1900s. This photo captures a group of children making their way to school in style, at least for the time. Can you imagine the excitement or dread of bouncing along dirt roads in this wagon every day? They were pioneers in their own way, enduring tough roads to get an education. These wagons were the lifeline to learning in an era where school wasn't always just down the street. This next picture shows a side of New York that the media is hiding from you. Talk about a street that never sleeps. Washington Street in 1906 was a blur of activity, bustling with carriages, early streetcars, and shoppers darting between storefronts. The energy of downtown Boston feels almost electric, even in the grainy black and white frame. Shoppers in stylish hats and dresses weave between horses, while merchants call out from their stalls. This picture is a time capsule of a city humming with progress, where tradition and modernity collide. You can almost hear the clatter of hooves and the ding of streetcar bells. Here is a part you didn't see coming. What would you do if you saw someone with a well-tailored suit and hat at the beach? Wouldn't you think they are not okay? These beachgoers in this 1905 Palm Beach photo are decked out in waistcoats, dresses, and parasols. None of them is wearing a swimsuit. Why, you may ask? Back then, modesty was upheld in every gathering. Wearing a swimsuit was a taboo at some point, can you imagine? Well, as absurd as these details sound, it was their norm. Who knows? In a few decades, the things that are considered normal now may be unthinkable then. The word unthinkable describes the notorious deeds that this family did. These aren't just ordinary people, they're legends of a bloody feud. The Hatfields of West Virginia sit for a rare family photo, their stoic expressions hinting at a past drenched in violence and vengeance. Their infamous feud with the McCoys turned these rugged Appalachians into folklore. Look closely. The worn faces, the weathered clothing, the air of defiance. It all screams survival. This is not just another family portrait, it is a snapshot of the most storied rivalry in Wild West history, where bullets spoke louder than words and grudges lasted generations. For these workers, payday seemed too far. At a time when there was no award for the Employee of the Year, these workers gave their jobs their all. In this picture, we see Stockdale Ranch laborers pose in front of massive haystacks, their hard-earned sweat woven into the fabric of California's agricultural history. Drenched in sunlight, they stand as a testament to grit and teamwork, using pitchforks to shape these towering mounds. The scene showcases the early days of industrial farming, where muscle and perseverance powered America's growing appetite. Now here is a picture that will make your day. At a time when there were no fire trucks, horses and fearless firefighters came to the rescue. Wondering what's happening here? Well, this 1910 photo captures a trio of magnificent white horses galloping full speed, pulling a steam fire engine down a bustling city street. Perched atop the gleaming engine are three fearless firefighters, gripping tightly as they race to save the day. The crowd is transfixed, some on the sidewalk, others leaning from the Shaw Building windows, all watching the drama unfold. Little did they know that someone somewhere was capturing everything. Which of these photos left you at the edge of your seat? Let us know in the comments. Also subscribe so that you won't miss out on our next exciting video.